doing
I guess
pipes
he got his
inspections,
building
but
file
he'll
yesterday,
be
so
back
like,
in.
can't you come
Did he have
today?
a 7 o'clock
He calls in
one?
at 4 o'clock, I'm like, what? No, I
Yeah,
can't.
so
No big deal. While we're waiting
home,
for
so
the final people
and,
to straggle, I'm just gonna show you guys a couple of things that you can utilize in the future, because we're doing the same thing, we're recording now. So whoever did miss the class, you can have them sit. So these, a lot of times, every one of our classes gets done, and then we put it online immediately, usually in 5 to 10 days. And it's in its raw form, exactly like this, so there's nothing fancy. But what it does have, it does show you that we've done this same class from Seattle to San Diego, Chicago to Texas, and from Maine to Florida. So this is not just your problem, this is everybody's problem. A lot of times after we tell you about what's going on here, a lot of times we'll have you talk to the very same people and say, okay, instead of you basically reinventing the wheel, you basically ask somebody else, you know, what problems did you have, what blowback did you get, what pushback from the political side did you get, and then we also do what's called a downtown walk around. You say I may be doing that with 2 today?
Well, it depends on what Paul's got on his plate now, because we have one of our pipes inspectors calling. What else does he have on his plate?
All right, another one. 10:30, hood inspection.
He's got a pipes inspection at 10?
10:30, hood inspection.
Oh, Paul does?
Just
Okay. Well, we'll work it out.
well,
We just had a guy call.
But we normally record what's called downtown walk-arounds, and we apply what you just learned here. We go downtown and just do a block. And now we basically teach you. So a lot of times, if you don't have the time, you can click on. So as you can see, Virginia, Portland, Oregon, we did Springfield, Illinois, so Texas. So we've got, and when you click on here, it's a combination of videos. Not only the videos of that specific class, and we've taught in everything. We've taught building inspectors, so you'll find a building inspector state, you'll find a fire prevention state, you'll find an NFPA state, you'll find, so it's really a combination of, you know, depending on which one you're going after, everything should be here. Now, what's the primary code that you guys use for every time you write a violation? Does anybody have their violation book here with them? So
We just usually pull it out of the IFC.
So it's an IFC, okay, so right now, are you 2012 already?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, you guys got the spanking brand new code that we're gonna pop up here anyway, so this will be a nice code. I also brought with me, you know, some confidence tests, which we have smaller version copies inside the book. And what we're gonna do is just sort of go over, but this is where your list is gonna be on here. So in the future, just link in, and if anybody, this is a great thing, not only to teach yourselves what is the standard of everybody in the country, but also when you have an owner of a building saying, well, why are you doing this and why should I do this? Or an engineer or an architect saying, why am I doing this and why?
Please call for printout.
You know what I'm saying? So, that must be this thing. Okay, so this helps a lot in basically getting, so between architects and engineers, they're gonna confront you. So what we're gonna talk about is just all the codes that are out there. And these, I normally teach a 4 to 6 hour continuing ed class. So I don't know if you're gonna turn this into a class, but normally you sign this class, and because it goes online and you send it to the state, if this is a 2 hour class.
You and I talked about that because we do it through ICC, so unless you're recognized and accredited with ICC.
Right, but like you said, send it in.
Send it in anyway, yeah, we'll
Beg
get
for-
our
Beg for
rights.
forgiveness, not for
Are
acceptance.
you gonna issue certificates?
I have some nice, not today, but.
Okay, you'll send them in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give you a little
So,
certificate.
you know, I was gonna wait for Orion and Les actually to get here, but just real quick, I'm gonna introduce Cisco with the National Fire Escape Association. This, the code now puts the onus of inspecting these exterior fire escapes on the fire department, on the Fire Prevention Bureau. And we've got a couple buildings that have been of particular concern with us because they're asking for TIs that are going to involve extensive attention to the existing and potentially to enhancing the fire escapes on these high rises. And as we were digging through the code and we realized that it's now a 5-year requirement for them to get them performance tested, Paul Carey was also doing some work with the building on Main Street. And Cisco here was contacted by the building owner, right?
Correct, Doug?
Yeah, and then he ended up calling me and sent me a whole bunch of information. I threw it out there for everybody to kind of vet it out and make sure, you know, he was worth his salt, worth having him pay his own way to come out to Salt Lake.
Is that a joke? Worth his salt in Salt Lake?
Yeah, right. Well, you know, We'll do what we can.
Saltless guy coming to Salt Lake.
So yeah, we wanted to make sure it was gonna be worth our investment to have him pay his own way to come out here and train us, so. Anyway, but I'm really thrilled that he's here, because for us, this is uncharted territory. I'm also gonna get with the compliance engine people and see if this is something they can incorporate into their dashboard, where we can keep track of who's done their inspections, and basically what Cisco's here to do for us is to educate us on what some of these thresholds are, and what some of these expectations are, and what the codes are that support the testing, and so on and so forth. So we've got 2 more people coming from the building department. And
Yeah, I'll wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started, so.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I can ask some questions, you guys, if you have any
So thank you
specific
for
questions.
coming, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Where
first of
did you
all,
come
everything,
from?
I'm out of Boston,
Not a boss.
but I parked my car over there.
You know, you can't park your car in Harvard Yard, it's
Can't
all
park
grass and
your car
sidewalks.
anywhere.
Yeah.
But here's what it is, everything I'm about to teach you, you already know, you just forgot about it. It's all underneath your nose, you're like, it's always been there, you're like, yeah. It all interlaces with all your departments, so, and like anything else, what you have is not me as a backup, you have all these other fire marshals and fire inspectors and building inspectors that you are gonna get their name, their email, and their phone number, you just call them and say, hey, because not to say, hey, is this a good idea, it's not that, okay, what trouble did you run into? This is a 3 to 5 year program, not a 10-year program like it took in Portland, Oregon, and they finally changed the state code to support a lot of these great ideas. 10 years. So we don't want to take 10 years here, so we're just going to give you the advanced track of what everybody else is doing. Please reach out to them, call them, and say, hey, why, what happened, because you will get some blowback on this, and there's 2 ways you're going to get blowback. From the people that you guys are writing violations to already that don't want to do anything you're doing anyway, regardless of fire escapes. So that's one blowback, but internally you have your own departments that sometimes don't know what to do. They know how to write a violation, but then they don't know how to support it or track it or basically watch it all the way through. So you have to make this simple so that it's all a checklist item. That's all we're gonna do. So in this program that we're about to talk about, and we're gonna talk about various cities that you can copy, a lot of this is online. So if you go to for example, you go to Seattle.gov, you go to LA.gov, you go to all these different places.govs, a lot of this information already exists there. So all you have to do is basically just go there and copy and paste and put your name on top, and you save yourself a whole lot of trouble. Then you call them and say, okay, who was the first bulldog that bit you on the leg? Whether it be, you know, an investor that owns half a city block and he's not doing it, and you know, one of the political buddies that plays golf with the governor or the mayor, and then the other side of it, you know, this poor little lady can barely keep her house afloat. Now she didn't, you know, she's never looked at a fire escape for 30 years, and now this fire escape is a $20,000 problem. So the first thing I teach everybody is, you know, in this day and age, the way you got to attack this is you got to lean forward. Okay, everything you're about to do is lean forward. That way, when somebody trips you and pushes you, at least you're making headway. You're always falling forward. Again, get up a little bit more. Don't lean back on this one, because if you go like that, they will knock you back into the dark ages. Okay. I have a master's degree in reverse stupidity. I'm 53 years old. My dad hijacked me into the iron business when I was 12 years old. So I know all the wrong ways to fix a fire escape. But it started really with railings, but then I started just getting into fire escapes in the past 15 years. So if you want to know all the wrong ways to sneak things around you guys, building and fire, I know them all. I know how to, you know, hide, not just me and everybody like me that's been in this business. And it started with one reason. Everybody here was the root cause of the problem. Because when these fire escapes were all built 50 to 75 years ago, some of them are even 100, you know what you guys wrote as a violation, if you ever wrote one? Scrape and paint.
Okay.
So as soon as you write scrape and paint, guess what that owner will do? Even when we show up and say, hey, there's a broken tread that we must fix, he said, no. She said, scrape and paint. And if you don't scrape and paint, just give me a price for scrape and paint, get the hell out, because I have Joe the plumber coming and giving me a scrape and paint. The landscaper guy gonna give me a scrape and paint price. And they don't want a price of fix the tread and some of the other treads that are bad. So because of that, for the past 50 to 75 years, that's what happened. So some of the things some of the things that we're gonna teach you today is you'll never write a scrape and paint violation again. You'll always write inspect repair.
I don't know, has anybody ever even, have you?
Years ago?
Yeah, but I mean, has anybody ever even really looked at the fire escapes for stability and, I mean, just a visual inspection? Good for you.
On this last one, that Kevin brought this to our attention, when I was helping Wayne out the high rises, I went out there, I wouldn't even walk out on it after I leaned out the door, looked down at it. I stepped on it a couple of times from inside the door and hit it a few times hard and said, yeah, that's as far as I'm going.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna show you some nice information there that belongs to fire, belongs to building, belongs to housing, belongs to health, and belongs to OSHA. And what we're gonna teach you is you don't have to walk on these fire escapes ever again, because from the ground or from opening a door, you will determine whether that fire escape has been maintained over time or just been coated with paint over all its rust. You're gonna learn that fire escapes rust from the inside out, not the outside in. So that means every time you see a rusty fire escape, all of its connections are suspect because they're rotted from the inside of the connection before you meet the rest of the paint. So we'll teach you that. And we'll teach you that this has always been a third-party inspection, so you're not supposed to be inspecting fire escapes. You're supposed to be identifying 2 reasons to write a violation. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. If you get there and it's rusty, there's your violation. The rest will be determined by a third-party inspection. So all you need is rust. Now, if you want, you can look up and see a dangling tread. Well, now you got what's called a dangerous building with life safety issues. Not just life safety issues, because that phrase has been used so often now that you can yell that into a phone, and what do people do? Let me write that down and we'll get to it in a month. But now, the big word now is dangerous building with life safety issues. So that's sort of taken on new meaning in a lot of different places, okay? So let's go over and let's take a look at a couple of things right away.
You can go ahead and get started.
Perfect.
Ted is the glowing example of the building department being here on time. Thank
Well, you know, again, it's getting recorded, so this can all go to them. But let's find out what happened with fire escapes and the history of buildings. Okay, you got a 50, 75-year-old building. Usually, when the building was built in the 1900s, 1925, 1950, what happened usually within the 25th to 50th birthday of that building? Did it get new windows? Did it get new plumbing? Did it get new electric? Did it get a new roof? Did it get a new boiler? Did it get new treads on the inside staircase? Did it get new sheetrock? Guess what it never got? The fire escape on the outside, if they spent $1 million, you would have to wrestle them in a back alley with a knife in your hand to get them to give you some money to fix the fire escape on the back. But they were built so strong, and I'll tell you how strong they are. They were built so strong that everybody says, you know, they're going to last forever. Some of our bridges last forever. You don't need to inspect them or look at them. They last forever. So what happened was it sort of it became one of the, we call it the bastard child of egress. It's outside, out of mind, gets snow on it, gets salt on it, who cares? So, but now that Grandma's 75 years old, she's dropping tenants, firemen, facilities guys, and that's because you're stepping on them. As soon as you step on them, you're the straw that broke the camel's back. So let me tell you why a properly installed fire escape and well-maintained fire escape will never fail. Because it hasn't for 75 years. So majority of your fire escapes out there were properly installed. Now they haven't been maintained. But let's take a look at a typical fire escape, properly installed, properly maintained, why you could never overload it. So the rule is 100 pounds per square foot, right? So 5 by 5, what these guys are on, this is a pretty old picture, right? Look at all these people, right? So 5 by 5, 25 square feet, times 100 pounds per square foot equals 2,500 pounds. You take a 300-pound fireman with all this gear on, 10 of them equal 3,000 pounds, right? Can you get 10 firemen fully suited in the 5 by 5? All right, so let's take half of those guys. 5 firemen at 300 pounds apiece is 1,500 pounds. Can we almost squeeze 5 guys in that space? I think we can. We're going to squish them in there. But that still means there's still another 1,000 pounds more that have to get into with those guys in order for it to reach its capacity, because it's built beyond its capacity. So why can't fire escapes ever collapse? Because there's no room for you to properly put whatever you think you can put on there. You know what I'm saying? Because people cannot exceed its weight limitation ever. The tenants in the building, you take 20 tenants at 150 pounds apiece. That's 3,000 pounds. Can you get 20 tenants in that space? So a properly installed, well-maintained fire escape will never fail. So any of these parties that you hear nationwide and everybody fell, why did it fall?
Wasn't properly installed.
No, it was properly
Or
installed.
wasn't properly maintained.
Wasn't properly maintained. So as soon as you stop maintaining it, can it fall? Oh yeah, like anything else. Got it? So you guys have some tragedies that we're gonna show you here. Philadelphia, Silver Springs. I think in Colorado they had a death there. A fireman fell in Chicago from a ladder. So we're gonna show those here to tell you when it does kill. Okay. Here's the codes that we're gonna really pound on, that you guys didn't realize was there. So you wanna make note that out of all the codes, this is all they write about fire escape. You think there's a big page write-up on this stuff? There's a big page write-up if you're gonna build a new one. We're not building new ones. The law's very clear. Can I build new fire escapes on new construction?
No.
Now, can I build new fire escapes on old construction? Yes, till the day I die. Why? Because after you've exhausted all means of that barn, that box, that church, or whatever, after you've exhausted all means of putting 2 interior staircases into it, that mansion or whatever, guess what's the answer? Exterior fire escape. Where? Wherever it's needed. So you can build fire escapes till the end of days on old construction, but not new construction. So don't let that, when people say, oh, I can't build fire escapes anymore, we're getting rid of everything. No. It's actually one of the answers why some of your buildings are still up in the air today, is because if it wasn't for a fire escape, you would not be able to utilize that building. The cost of reconstructing it on the inside and putting in 2 staircases, you'd have empty lots. So fire escapes, properly maintained. So it's all about the proper connection, and we're going to talk about load tests and other satisfactory evidence. Here's what you have. I'm going to start with the NFPA first because it says it the easiest. Because all of them say the same thing, but these guys say it the best. The authority having jurisdiction. Who's that? Okay? Fire, building, housing, health department. Every one of those people can step in. So who's leading the charge? It's fire prevention, but who is in the background that can pull a load test anytime? So the authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test. What's the first thing they want? So everybody take the card I just gave you. If you put that in the back, you're going to lose it in the near future, but it's called a load test card. Okay? And that means that you've already been told that the first thing every time you walk into any building, that the law says, ready? In order for that building to be open, does it need 1 or 2 means of egress? 2. Can I buy it or sell it if it doesn't have 2 means of egress? Can I rent it out to anybody if I don't have 2 means of egress? So right now, is the health department concerned about that? Well, if they're going to put people in the building, should one of their concerns be, is there 2 means of egress? Housing, HUD and Section 8 housing and whatever, one of the things they check for lead, they check for all these things, but shouldn't one of the things they check for is to say, does this have 2 means of egress, or does it have a front stair and a rope out the back? What's it supposed to have? So we're going to start letting all these people know that they actually can help find out when some things out there don't have the 2 means of egress. Do you guys have every time you sell or rent, the re-inspection process here? Some places
Well, exchanges and new business licenses issued, yeah.
for commercial, but on residential, the way they do it is, in some states, whether you're buying it or re-renting it, there's a re-inspection required process, so you may want to look at that.
Families?
Yes.
For everything.
It's not here.
Oh, okay,
I just want you to know.
good.
And then here's the second one, shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. Today's class is about that part. Because we're going to show you load testing and how it can be done, so nobody says, oh, nobody does it. No, people do it. How expensive it is. But this is not a load test class. This is a class that says that what we're really doing with these 75-year-old structures is you need to get other evidence of strength. And if all of a sudden they give you other evidence of strength, guess what you take off the table? Load test. If they give you half the evidence of strength, what do you put back on the table? Load test, right? And that load test can be full load test or partial, meaning they may do enough components of the fire escape, so you say, okay, I only want a partial load test, but you're still doing a load test. So they did all the stairs, then you say, okay, just load test all the platforms. They did all the platforms, then load test all the stairs. Doesn't matter. You do a full refurb, there is no load test. And that's what this code says. Now let's take a look at your International Fire Code. Testing and certification. All exterior fire escape systems shall be examined. That's this. Not an opinion, right? Because we got plenty of opinion affidavits, ready? I mean, I've memorized it. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, this fire escape is in conformity with the state of Utah's building codes. Which means what? Just put it by the toilet, because that's what it should be used in case of an emergency. You guys can use those, because do they protect firemen, children, and tenants from falling to their deaths? When you have an evaluation form, and we created this for the state of Seattle, before or after 4 people fell?
After.
Oregon, before or after? LA, so there was no, you believe that in the past 10 years there was no confidence test? So we created one, and we put it out, everybody has one. So if you go to seattle.gov, this form is there. You can download it as a PDF or a Word document, take their logo out, their name out, type in your name, you've got a confidence test. Towards the bottom there's the place where they have their code. Take that code out, put it in 2012. You have now just hit the current, the current status of what scares architects and engineers. Because now, this is not an opinion letter, this is a yes/no question. And one of the key questions that we'll read, we're not going to do it right this second, we're going to read, is that 100% of all the joints are free of internal rust or rot. And then there's a little checkbox. You're saying that for all your treads? Check, yes or no. For all your rails? Yes or no. For all your supports? And then the big evil one, the unknown in between the building. Have you verified that connection into the wall of that 100-year-old structure? By what means? Because if they don't satisfy that, what do you guys pull out of your pocket? I guess they can, that's not it's. If somebody's not doing the right thing, and they whether it's an architect or an engineer or an owner balking at you, what do you pull out? Load test. And they can talk it back into your pocket by giving you what? Other evidence of strength. Got it? So let's take a look at the other codes. So now you have shall be examined or tested. Anybody clear on what tested means? Okay? And or certified. What's certified mean? Other adequate strength. Are we clear on that? So testing or certification. So what's certification? Other evidence of strength. By who? Who determines that? That exists? Right? Okay? So, and this is the best thing they've done. This was not here for many years, guys. Every 5 years, and a report, whether you fail or pass, goes to who? Fire official. They've taken this out of IBC for 2012. You don't see it there anymore. Okay? Because you read it in IBC, maintenance of a fire escape, says, see the fire official. Okay? So the International Fire Code before was any fire escape system found in a state of deterioration or unsafe manner shall be repaired immediately. You guys remember this, right? Depending upon the structural condition, a load test shall be conducted, meaning what? Depending on the structural condition. Who determines that?
We do.
Because you guys used to let who determine that? Third party. When you let third parties rule the roost, what happens? Everything goes amok.
Watching their nose.
That's an out. So now let's take a look at the International Building Code. Testing and certification. All exterior fire escapes systems shall be examined or tested. Does that sound familiar? And or certified for structural adequacy and safety in lieu of a load test. Right? So, is this a load test class? We're going to show you a load test. We're going to show you 50-pound bags being dragged around by 7 men from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, so you can have a nice laugh, see how dangerous it is. And does it exist? Yeah. Does it cost thousands of dollars? $3 to $5 to $10,000 to load test fire escape? Yeah. Could you use that money towards bolts and paint? Yeah. Some people don't want to. Pull out the card and say when somebody's not satisfying you, what do you say? Then let's just load test it. Because you will be bullied by very credentialed architects and engineers. You say, great. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, all I need you to do is please fill out this form. Now, here's the funny thing, we teach this class all the time. Are you going to stop taking opinion letters? No, you live and keep coming in.
Absolutely.
Because they're part of the initial process. So instead of teaching them to, this is the only one you can do, but that's 3 to 5 years away, a standard document on your website that download that. Right now, you take anything. I don't care if it comes written on bark. Say, hey, that firescape is good? All right, that's step one. Step two, here or at your office, can you please fill this out? Now, some of the ways that these get in, and you're going to speak with different cities, this is 2 ways. This can come from the top down, the government, they're going to sort of let this trickle down to you guys. Or grassroots, where you do it anyway, and you basically shame the state into doing the right thing. A lot of times it means local ordinance. So, if you're going to be doing it through the fire department or the building department, it all depends. So, for example, I think in Seattle, they had to do it as a fire department, because the fire department, as a sort of there's a different name that they create a process of how they do that. In some building departments, they have to go to the local city council and say, hey, our city wants tags, our city wants to use these confidence tests, so it goes through legal to make sure. And the fact that all these other cities are already doing it, what's that say about legal? Right?
Sure.
That's the first thing your lawyer's gonna say, okay, this is fairly new. No, it's done everywhere. Oh, other cities have this? Yeah, it's already on their website already. Matter of fact, what I'm giving you is a copy of their web stuff I'm already pulling off their website. Like, oh, yeah, this looks great. Yeah, just get my rubber stamp and move on.
So we already have the code adopted at a state level. So it's really just a matter of figuring out what you're here to teach us, and that is, one, being able to identify the problem, and then the messaging that we have to be able to convey to the building owner or the tenant or whoever's taking responsibility for the actual condition of the fire escape.
What
So,
we're gonna talk about today is, everybody's already got a lot on their plate, and you need to make this a checklist item. So today, with building, fire, housing, we just need to add a checklist and say, if this is what you need in order to close a permit, if this is what you need in order to close this not sprinkler, but a smoke detector sign off, we're just gonna add all these things to the back end of a normal process anyway, and you're gonna be asking for copies of what the law says now you're supposed to be doing. So you're not gonna create an inspection program, you're gonna tie this in, you're gonna tie a copy of this to everything that is part of your annual inspections on anything. So as examples, which we'll go into in greater detail, you start immediately with your smoke detector sign-offs. Guess what you need on a smoke detector sign-off? A fire escape affidavit, because the alarm goes off, where do I go? So I need one. I don't have one. So what do you say to that owner?
you could load test it, or you
No, you say, well, you need one, go get one in 30 days.
can-
And you still finish your process. You sign off the smoke, you let people in, and do what? Because all you did was you just needed a trigger that says it either was a complete sign-off for the smoke or an incomplete sign-off. So you basically say that started a 30-day window to the owner. You don't even have to go back and see what the fire escape. Well, you're required, 5-year rule, just so you know. Got it? So sprinkler guys go in and sprinkler test a building that has a fire escape. And the guy submits this thing every year, every 2 years, right? And then you say, hey, you need, as part of the checklist item, you need a copy of the certificate. He goes, I'll ask the owner, call the owner, and go, I don't have one. Okay. He doesn't have one. He says, okay, no problem. Let's close this. But now it starts a 30-day process for that owner that gets a letter in the mail from your computer, right? Building department, you're gonna see a thing here that says the fire escape is, in Boston, for example, because of the stories we're about to see, they threw the the fire escape affidavit on the back end. So you can open a permit, but to close it, guess what you need? For a toilet, for a light bulb, or for a roof, what do you need to close it? A certificate. Yes?
One of the problems that we're having out here in regards to what you're suggesting is that nobody out here is trained to certify a fire escape. This building that started this whole project is the one I inspected, and they called certified fire, which is guys who do sprinklers,
Yeah.
And certified fire guys have been contacting me, trying to figure out, what do you guys want?
Yeah.
And I said, we don't know. And so he doesn't even know what to inspect in this, and nobody's out there, and I don't know, how do you certify them? He says, Dustin, he's one of the owners of the company, is hiring a structural engineer
Right.
to get the process started and say, I'm not even gonna consider doing any inspections on there without a structural engineer to do this. And then, which he's a smart guy, and that's probably the right way to go, but I don't think any of us really knows, what to tell these guys. These are the backgrounds and parameters. I noticed this page you have in here, the second page has all this. And I'm assuming this might be.
That's the confidence test.
Yeah, for them, things that he should be aware of and know of, that,
I'll cover all of that. So what you tell them is the law nationwide is design professionals or others acceptable to the building official. So design professionals means structural engineers, civil engineers, architects, interior architects, and sometimes in the fire protection industry, people that are licensed in the field. Currently, there's only 2 licenses in the US that have fire escape capability. Boston has one, I have that. LA has one of those, and I have that. And then there's nothing else. So him starting off with a structural engineer, structural engineer, he's following the code. All
okay.
right.
And the other thing is, most of our guys that we work with, like on sprinklers and stuff like that, alarm companies, these guys have to be certified by the state
Correct.
to do this. So no, and I don't know, now is the state.
So when a structural engineer shows up and gives you this document, he's registered with the state.
Okay,
So
so
you're-
he'll get a certification from the state to do,
Right.
be somebody that's qualified to do fire, because I don't know.
It's not that they're qualified to do fire escape, they're qualified to look at any structural. So as the code says, design
Okay.
professionals or others acceptable to the building official. So when the building official reviews a candidate and an architect walks in, hey, you know, I'm an interior architect, I'm gonna sign on this, he goes, well, tell me where your credentials are for this fire escape, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna look at it and make sure there's more paint than rust, you know, and so on. She goes, you're not qualified, I'm not gonna take your, so there's a design professional that she said, I'm not gonna take him. You know what I'm saying? There's a civil engineer that digs holes in the ground, you know what I'm saying, coming in, a friend of mine needed this thing and he just needed, she goes, okay, so what's your credentials? Oh, you know, I dig holes in the ground, but you know, I'm registered. He goes, okay, well, you're not acceptable. The code is very clear, the design professionals that and or others acceptable to the building official or fire official. So we're gonna cover, all those things are gonna get covered,
Okay.
so I'm glad that we have a class here. The only things I need is a clock that says, stop talking to these people, 'cause
Yeah.
you only gave me so much time.
9:30-ish, maybe about an hour.
I'm gonna start getting my Gatling gun out here, guys, ready?
Okay.
So we're clear, you're supported by all 4 codes, right? We got one more code for you that's really gonna ruin everybody's day, that's a general contractor. OSHA, we're gonna write this down. OSHA 1910.37 says, during repairs or alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes as required by this subpart are available and existing fire protections are maintained or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides an equivalent level of safety. So what's that mean? You're going into a downtown building, 5-story, 10-story. They're gutting out the 3rd floor, but the other floors are all occupied. The fire escape on the back is a rat trap. Right? What's this say? What does OSHA say that you must have in every building that has employees in it? Every place that's not even being repaired, what must you have in it?
2 exits.
2 exits. So if all of a sudden I'm doing some work on the 3rd floor and I gotta knock out the sprinkler system for a week, who must I clear that through?
Us.
And I gotta go in and say, okay, so how are you gonna maintain the rest of the building? Do you need a fire watch? You know, what are you gonna do to make this safe? Because I'll allow you to continue working on those other floors. I got a dead floor, you know, what are you gonna do with me? Well, if I have a dead second means of egress, guess how the tenants get out for self-evacuation? Guess how you guys get in case there's a problem, before the ladders arrive. Oh, by the way, all the old gray-haired guys in here teach all the new guys that are firefighters ready, in case of fire, don't use the
Elevator.
The elevator.
right? So that's how bad fire escapes are. The gray-haired guys are telling all the firefighters, what do they tell them? She kind of kept it on, she saw this coming, she was like, I'm not saying it. Say, don't use the fire escape. And those precious 3 to 5 minutes while there's smoke billowing in the building, go to the truck and get a ladder and a real ladder, and what happens to the people inside? What kills them? The fire or the smoke? Okay, so so OSHA says that in fire prevention, and where are you putting fire escapes now? Under what category? Okay, in California, okay, we are under, and my license is under Regulation 4. You want to copy a place? You want to copy an ATM machine? Regulation 4, LA, for fire protection. Let me tell you what everybody needs in LA only, not the state, in LA only, to touch sprinklers, alarms, anything fire protection. First of all, you need $1,000 to talk to you. Then you got to fill out an application that I want to get my license. I got to pass a 100-question test with you. I got to get an 80. Then I got to sit with you and you got to tell me everything you know about, sprinklers or fire escapes or anything. After I pass, then you want me to go and see a site somewhere, and you're going to watch me examine something. For me, it would be fire escapes. Then I have to fill out this beautiful paperwork that you guys give me in LA that, done correctly, we'll file it. Done incorrectly, and I got to call you 2 days before if you want to witness any of my exams. I got to give you 2 days notice. Okay, and every 3 years I have to renew with her at half the price.
Is this certification through the city of LA?
Ah, yeah, so copy and paste, ready? And so go Regulation 4, and you're gonna speak with Darren over there, okay? So the next one you guys wanna copy is Portland, Oregon. We have a lot of pride with Portland, Oregon. You're gonna speak with Stu White. 10 years later, we changed the state. It started all in Portland, but then it went to state, so look for Fire Escape Issues, Oregon. And they have this whole program written out, including how to paint, how to load test, everything's there. We were part of that crazy mess. Now, every place that you have, Seattle.gov, you can go get confidence tests, not just for fire escapes, but for sprinklers, for everything. It's online at Seattle.gov under fire prevention. So you don't have to reinvent this wheel, just copy and paste, there's no shame. And so what you're gonna do though is every now and then you're gonna find that in some of these things that were made, there's little loopholes that rats and snakes still crawl out. So that's what I found in some cases, that through some of the issues that happen in whether it's interior or exterior, political or not, some things don't get done. For example, they're kind of soft on the load testing side of it. So I just preach what it says right in the code. Other evidence of strength. I don't promote load testing. Even though they're not doing it, the problem is they're not heavy on the other evidence of strength to negate load testing. You know what I'm saying? So I put load testing back in the card as a trump card that you pull out when anybody's trying to bulldoze you in any way, drag their feet, throw credentials on the table, just throw out the load test. And by the way, who else carries the load test? So they're looking at you as fire prevention saying, why are you throwing the load test card? He says, no, I got some other cars I brought with me, but they couldn't make the meeting. The building department wants a load test, health wants a load test, housing wants a load test. Then what happens? Oh, my God, I called the construction company, and they didn't want me to pull out their load test card, but the construction company is basically, oh, by the way, furnished that provides an equivalent level of safety. What's that mean? So if I'm playing with the sprinkler systems, I can provide the other equivalent, right? Firewatch. You know what's the equivalent for fire escapes? Scaffolding. Scaffolding.
Really?
So you get to any building, residential, commercial, institutional, they've got a fire escape that's dumping to the ground. They're still working on the building, and you don't want to shut down the situation. You want to keep everybody in the building. What can you put up? Scaffolding, $1,000 a month, for example. They'll put in 7-Eleven, 3-foot wide, standard fire escapes, OSHA approved for egress, not the construction ones, which are little skinny little nothings. They'll put with rails and everything, and they'll mothball that fire escape and pick up a bunch of other windows. Or tie back into the fire escape safely enough at the areas where they can, because the staircases are falling apart. So whenever you get into, whether it's a slumlord or a little old lady that can't afford something, she doesn't have 20 grand, what can you order immediately so that no tenants are out of the building? Right? In the beginning, you can order, fire watch and safety watch just to sort of, but you're not gonna do that for months. You know what I'm saying? So for 1 to 3 days, you'll order you can order immediately some fire watch, but then jump into the other side. Ready? In LA, Reg 4, if I get to a place and I'm doing a fire escape situation and there's a life safety concern, I can't leave. I gotta call the captain of the closest firehouse. Say, hi, I've got a life safety issue here, and until he comes screaming down the street, woo, Renee, I can't leave.
And then they're saddled with the fire watch? Is that?
No, it's not a fire. I did an inspection, and the treads are dangling on this fire escape.
So until
It
they
doesn't have
provide
a-
some sort of.
No, they're not providing anything. They're showing up and this is the
I don't
owner,
mean
this
the
is the
fire
fire
guys, I mean
department.
the building owner. Until the building owner can
They'll work it out.
satisfy that equivalent level of safety, then.
Yeah. No. And the fire captain of that firehouse will say, you know what? Okay, hey Charlie, stay here. All right, let's go back. And I'll come back and try and do whatever he thinks is going to be satisfied. He may say, take this building down. I mean, get everybody out. But it's not me, threatening those things. It's and in Reg 4, I can't leave the site.
Y'all ready for this?
Copy and paste, guys. Ready? All right. Is this powerful? So now, who else did you bring in? Right? Does anybody want to play around with OSHA? Oh, by the way, who else can't go into a building to basically inspect the place?
We cannot.
Yeah. I use the word again, inspect the place. Perform inspection. Who else can't go into a building that doesn't have a second means of egress? You guys.
Us, yeah.
You guys are not allowed in a building that doesn't have 2 means of egress. So, you guys are breaking the very law that, and I've had somebody in a setting like this say, well, we're not controlled by OSHA. I know, but everybody else in that building is. And you're gonna have to be you're basically crossing a gray line, but basically you guys, if you get hurt inside that building, for everybody else it's an OSHA problem, for you it's what? You should have never gone into a building that didn't have 2 means of egress. You already knew all this. So like I said, everything I'm teaching you guys already know. I'm just sort of gelling it all together, like Jello with fruit inside. I hate Jello with fruit inside. I just like plain Jello. I hate it all fruit.
Like carrot shots.
All right, you guys remember the Station Night Fire? You guys remember the Station Night Fire? Okay, right after that, in 2003, I told you how long I've been doing this. Since 2003, the Station Night Fire, they killed over 100 people. They want to do a news story on fire escapes and how you can save yourself. I told a reporter, I said, listen, over 75% of everything I look at fails. Of that, 50% has life safety issues. She goes, I don't believe you. So I took her to the theater district. I gave her a 15-minute instruction on the obvious, dangling treads, blown supports, and said, that's it. She goes, show me some stuff. I said, no, walk around and you tell me what passes. So in the theater district show, she wanted to do a 1-minute piece. She ended up doing a 5-minute piece. And this is what it sounds like.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces. All in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
Oh, I was scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
this fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files,
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to Inspectional Services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
As such, any quick questions now? What's sort of popping into your eyes now?
OMG.
The oh my God factor?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
No, I'm glad this came to light, Paul. This is good stuff.
Well, it's interesting, but it's also, when we call like certified fire, Dustin, the one that wants to take on this job, is the only one that is stepping up to the plate of anybody so far because they were contacted by this building I inspected. They, once again, I guess somewhere near the state, it's somebody in the at the state level, at least that's how they work at a sprinkler company, has to certify them to do this kind of inspection for us.
No, see, it's always going to be third party, and you got to remember that in the entire U.S., 50 states, design professionals or others acceptable to the building official. Boom.
Period. So
we kind of. So it's not that a certification in the future doesn't come. It could come,
right.
But don't let them bog it down now. It's very simple. Your first leader always, okay, is a structural engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're going to get a qualified architect that draws structural things, and well, it all depends on you. Somebody's going to sit in front of you, and I am a fire escape engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I have a license from the building department, okay, in Boston that lets me inspect and sign off on fire escapes in the city of Boston and throughout Massachusetts. I inspect 375 fire escapes for Harvard University, and no structural engineer touches my documents. I have a license in LA from Reg 4, which after I give them to take a picture cost me $1,000, but I talked to their what do you call it? I have their license. Now, I had a structural engineer working for me also in California, who was a bridge engineer for the state of California. He couldn't sign off on fire escapes unless he got a Reg 4. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of backwards,
So I guess-
but the lay of the law, the lay of the land nationwide is structural engineers or others acceptable, right? And the key is, your structural engineers are all gonna send you opinion letters. The only thing we're changing is we're saying, no more opinion letters. We want assurance. And assurance comes in the form of an evaluation, something that everybody else has done. Everybody in sprinklers has checklists. This is a checklist, that's all it is.
I guess I'm maybe not, I think what I'm getting at is basically Ted Hitchon, he's our engineer, and Chief Ellis, she's the fire marshal, is what they approve for when we go out and do it.
Correct.
Is what I'm getting at. I personally, I have a very simple job. Ted gives these guys the parameters to work by, and the chief gives me parameters to work by. I just tell them they work within those parameters.
And so we're changing the bar from the ground, we're raising the bar to these guys, and say, here's the bar for the fire inspectors, for the third-party inspectors. We went out and we created, and we sent this, we can send this again to you, but after we finish, I'll go. But as soon as we finish a couple of these videos, here's what's called the Departmental Procedures and Guidelines. And guess what it says? If you're gonna inspect, guess what it says in this little box? It says, in layman's terms, here's what the official wants. If you're gonna fix this thing, here's in layman's terms what the vendor has to do. And if you're gonna paint it, the EPA stepped in, guys. Anybody have any fire escapes older than 1978 with lead on them? So the EPA stepped in and said, hey, let's muck this up a little bit more even and talk about this over here. Right? So all we're doing is basically coming in and saying, it's 3 to 5 years. So that's just step one. I plan to come back like we did in Portland, Oregon, after we got you guys working together with all your internal departments. So you're leading the charge. Everybody else is just going to be dropping names in a hat that says, 11 Beacon Street, 123 Main Street, 79. They're not going to do anything more than give you a lead that says in their checklist item, it was an incomplete closure of a file from the building department. And all of a sudden you get this blank that says 11 Beacon Street. You already know what to do. It doesn't have what it needs. Okay? So we're going to go over this with you today, because it already exists. So you can have one of these, and you can have your website up here, and you can have all your information and your code over here. You can have this online. So when anybody calls you up, what do I do? He says, well, I'll fax you what to do, or just go online and say things to do when you're getting a fire escape. And you read your part, and you inspecting it, repairing it, or painting it. So we've already done that. You know what I'm saying? So everybody back in. Let's continue on with this piece.
Every 5 years, when our investigation.
So there's our 5-year rule.
Simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy.
Move up a little
Have
bit.
been certified as safe, and the Director of Inspectional Services admitted.
This guy was already embarrassed. We're right here.
More fire escapes.
I don't like the bank of microphones.
Not one up-to-date certification, and again, no system.
You're gonna send out a notice
Can they get away with it?
that's gonna stop you from ever getting,
I guess the shortest answer.
I'll show you the notice that you're gonna send out, yes.
To sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural
I gotta get with the
deficiencies
compliance
are
engine.
reported, local
See
building
if they can
inspectors
put
can
this on that
actually
platform
evacuate
for all fire
residents until
purposes.
repairs are made. Would you talk to us on camera about this? No, but when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. Not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire, again, according to inspectional services, not
What year did
one
this
each
piece
check
come out?
was certified.
2003.
Officials know
This
they
piece
are
was in
required to
2003.
enforce the
So,
building code.
11
but
years
they
ago.
admit they don't always know the
Any changes in Boston?
the law. The building
A little
code.
bit, but around the castle, yes. In the castle, no.
But state officials say.
You have to shame them into doing the right thing. You guys know how it is.
Communities should know.
Grassroots.
The Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
But I'm going to anyway.
After the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Ryan.
We need to have that and show it to our sound.
It's online. It's called No Way Out.
No way.
All right, so listen. So guys, let's take a reason. Let's find out why this happened in Boston. In Boston, this is what happened in 1973, and then it went to sleep. So it takes a death. You guys have deaths already happening around you now. So this is why everybody's sort of. So this fireman saved himself, and by the way, that's the back poster. So if you want to keep this book, you want to put this anywhere, put this somewhere in your area so that when people say, hey, I'm not fixing my fire escape, you say, well, let me tell you all the dead people that it's going to kill, but except the landlord. And that's why after we've done this for many, many years, one of the things we want to have is a national law that says all landlords must collect rents through the fire escapes from now on. You tape your check to the outside of your window, and no agent can collect, no management company can, must be the landlord to go up and collect rent checks out of the outside of the window.
That's awesome.
So if that law is not going anywhere, this is what happened in '73, and in that time we had the IBC code that says fire escapes must be examined and tested. No 5-year rule. So what happens when you don't have a 5-year rule? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in Philadelphia, 50 years that building at Rittenhouse, which you're going to see now, 50 years. And what's their rule? If we don't get a violation, or if we don't trip over the hazard, we don't go looking for it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, don't look for additional work, right? So this happened in Boston in '73. In 2003, what happened? Right? It was that Station 9 fire, they wanted to do a piece. What made them put in the 5-year rule went to sleep. Why? Because fire escapes are the bastard child of egress. It wasn't a checklist item. You had to purposely go look for this. You're not going to go look for this stuff. You're going to add it to the checklist of other things that have made it. You remember when sprinklers could be dead in a building and the building was still alive? Still working? But then all of a sudden now you have a dead floor on a building. What? That owner's got what? Problems.
Yeah.
Right? Why, Bet? It took 30 years for lobbying and right now what's the next big push that's happening nationwide? Sprinklers in residential property. And what's everybody doing?
Pushing back.
Yeah,
pushing back. That's an understatement.
Got it? So these things occur. So we're not going to cure this thing overnight, but we're going to lean into the wind, right? So this is what happened. 30 years later, we're doing this, right? So, and then he won a Pulitzer Prize for this photo. But she died, her niece landed on her, but look at all the pieces. It's just 4 stories. And this is $1 million area right now. You try to rent in that area, she fell from the 4th story. $1 million. The place down in Philadelphia, $1 million. But not the fire escape. $1 million rent, but what about the fire escape? That they were out just having a birthday party, having a smoke. And 3 people fell, they all survived, 1 died later in hospital. Why did it fall, guys? Not properly installed.
No, maintained.
Not maintained. All right, so.
Witnesses say it sounded like an incredible explosion when the fire escape of a Philadelphia apartment building suddenly collapsed and injured 3 people.
NBC 10 cameras were there as a friend holds on to one of the victim's hands, who is apparently conscious as the victim is placed into an ambulance by medics.
KYW-TV reports a man who was critically injured and 2 women were rushed to local hospitals.
Police believe the bolts of the fire escape appear to have been rusted and dislodged from the brick wall of the apartment building.
The victims fell more than 30 feet to the ground, and now the incident is under investigation. Worth noting, the complex is more than 100 years old and even on Philadelphia's historic registry. Local reporters are all pointing out the city's licenses and inspections department hasn't filed any violations in the past when it comes to the old building, so Sunday's collapse came without warning. Neighbors say the 3 victims, reportedly all in their 20s, may have been partying on the fire escape landing before the incident. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth.
Partying, that's what caused the collapse.
They were
Partying.
drunk, that's what made it come down.
Beer, excessive beer load. The cake did it.
Excessive beer load. Fire escapes.
Right? This is me after something happened to be inspecting in the area. 2-3 days after, I had a call from Philadelphia, not related. So I went to the site, and this is what I found.
Is that this piece here, which this is the back, used to be up against the building. These 2 brackets here used to be going to that 4th, 5th floor up there.
Now notice when I zoom in, does that look like a place that is inhabited?
Yeah.
And it used to be attached.
It's all boarded up. So their 4th floor is an attic space that they've been ignoring anyway. They rent the rest of the building, but.
And that platform up there also had a bracket which is now laying inside the floor below. So they either were going up to that upper floor or they were on this fire escape. And as soon as it let go on this side or up above, which looks like it's all blown out.
So they climb up to that?
No, they would stare. They would stare in the chain on having smoke.
Tore away and fell down, or
through bolts gave way. This was actually a double or a triple failure.
One of these legs is sitting on a bracket like this, and it's up there. You can see it on the floor below there. See, there's a bracket right there.
Fire escape CSI guys.
There's a wall. There's a hole in the wall used to be.
It's a new reality show coming to a TV station area.
To that corner, and it used to support the staircase that used to go to that other top corner there. So that's how this piece got its way down here and kind of did this. But the key is, this is what it looked like. That bracket that used to hold.
And that's what gave way is the bracket.
And then it would go from here up.
I don't think that also failed. What failed was the through bolts through the building. They rotted out.
This release or
they dropped.
This release, it pulled away and brought this with it, or if this failed first,
that rust line.
and then it released the remaining piece. But I believe everybody.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
Up above on this
And
piece.
they didn't evacuate the building. So even though this was missing, they kept the building active.
Single bolt with an angle on the back. So this down here represents that there's an angle along the back, an angle along the wall.
What you need to do is
Okay, and this
Show
platform is
this
pretty
to
shoddy, but basically
fire
creating a corner
CFP.
supported only by this brace.
Yeah,
This brace goes into the
more
building.
eyes.
And so should that corner.
I'm going to show you another one.
We'll send you a bunch of this stuff, don't worry about it.
So just so you know, I've taught the line guys. I've taught 400. Basically, in the city of Elizabeth, we taught in a 1-week time. We taught everybody what to look for and not get on these fire escapes if they don't have a tag on them. So we're going to go through some ideas. Right now, you have all these hand grenades everywhere. So everybody's right, and here's one of the main reasons. A lot of it has to do with what's rotting inside the building. A lot of people don't know that the veneer of a building, this is called the veneer. This veneer can be wood, vinyl, aluminum, asbestos, could be anything. So your brick buildings, this is not the structural. The structural is this crap in the back. It's usually 2 or 3 layers of brick or masonry. That's where everything ties in. Then they skin it with a beautiful veneer, and that could be anything. Brick, wood, steel, whatever they want to put. But here's the indicators. You start looking at buildings and you see rusty tears coming out. That means there was water getting back there, and this is where it gets in, right there. See that little crack between the two? The parapet wall is broken, water drains for years, and it rots the inside. This is a 20-story building. And look at all the rot, okay? And all the things. So now this is what you have to do to go in there and fix it. You know one of the things we're going to teach you today? We're not going to go in there and fix this stuff. You don't need to. You let sleeping dogs lie. But next to one of these connections, which I'll show you in a second, 6 inches over, I'll drill a 3/4 hole, epoxy a new epoxy in there, let sleeping dogs lie, because this costs like $500 to go do this stuff. At every connection on an old building, if you don't disturb all the bricks. If you can't find the matching color of the bricks, and a 3/4 hole next to it, then you mechanically fasten back to the connection. Now what do you got? 200%. The master is the original, now the new one, and this one becomes the slave to the support. Got it? So, but on the, that only amounts to 3% of the connections. The other 97%, what do you do to those? You change every fastener on a fire escape connection. Remove 100% of all the rust. And again, every fastener is just on the major structure. The pickets and everything else and the little scrolls, that's minor structure. You don't need to change those rivets and those little screws. But all the major rivets and all the major square head bolts, they all get brand new, silicone shut and encapsulated. Have I met your other evidence of strength? Are you gonna order a load test on me? So in lieu of a load test, you give me other evidence of strength. So the burden on any architect, engineer, repair guy, owner is to come to you and say, hey, I've refurbished this 75-year-old structure to avoid the load test. If they have not met your satisfaction, you may not pull the load test question, but he may. And vice versa, he may accept the dollar. Thanks, great. Thanks, buddy. We're going to play golf this weekend, right? All of a sudden, you spoke with who? Oh, it's easy on you. You guys play golf. Load test. All right? So there's double checking there that can happen because somebody's not satisfied. There's several people you have to satisfy. So this is one of the biggest issues. The outside bolts everybody can see. Okay, so every fire escape you walk by, you see square head bolted rivets, means what? Have they been maintaining it over time? The average life of a bolt is 25 years. So when you build it in 1925, what was supposed to happen in 1950 to 1975? What was supposed to have happened? Every fastener was supposed to have been changed out. So when you look up, you see hex head bolts. And if somebody was smart at that time, they would have also sealed it with what? From 1950 to 1975. Epoxies, silicones, caulkings of any kind. Did they? Okay. So in 1975, people were supposed to change all these bolts. And did they? In 2000, they were supposed to change these bolts. And did they? In 2014, we're having a class here today. And when we go into the downtown, and whether you're down on the ground or you're opening up a door or a window looking out a fire escape, what can you see looking up a little bit, looking down? Original hardware and rusty paint. And you need two things to write a violation. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. I will prove to you today that the fire escapes rot from the inside out. So if you have surface rust, do you need anything else? You say, yeah, I don't think it's safe. They say, well, what do you mean? What part of it is not safe? You say, that's not for me to determine. Who determines that? Third party. And who can that be? My fire protection guy? Or, they're like, no, any design professional or other that need the satisfaction of the building official. So they will come out, and in some cities, they have what, for example, Portland, they have what's called, anybody can join it. They have a approved list, an approved vendors list. So that means anybody that's an engineer, an architect, they could just apply, approve, and you guys don't approve any of them, you know what I'm saying? You say, pick any one of these guys can help you out.
So, and then the onus is on them, because they're gonna fill this out, is that the idea?
Yeah, you guys don't fill that out. In Seattle, you got every pass or fail must be, one of those must be submitted. So when you...
So they're basically putting their seal on this.
Oh yeah,
saying,
there's a space in the front.
Right, okay.
So that's what you receive. And if you read on there, it says, that's an evaluation, it's a yes-no. It's not an opinion, it's a yes-no. And they need to seal it, but there's certain statements that are being made on there that are yes-no. So you're getting an assurance, not an opinion, you're getting an assurance that there is no rust in any of the tread connection. And if the guy goes, dude, there's 287 treads, he goes, oh, you better get going. Yeah, but I only charged the guy $400. He goes, great deal.
You're a bargain twice the price.
All right? The next one, you better readjust your scale. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, if I walk a little bit on this fire escape and I take a peek and I see original hardware, what do you pull out, guys? Nice and loud.
Load test.
You look out and you see any rust in any connection that somebody already painted over, what do you pull out? But how can they stop the load test? Because if they're done, everybody's already collected their checks. What can they go back and do?
They can verify it.
They go back, right?
Yeah.
Like you say, come on guys, look, I see original hardware, there's still some rust that you guys just painted over.
What do you do about the rust stains on the brick? And I guess you just reassure that they've done the connections the way that you were demonstrating?
Exactly. Or, please open up your building, your 100-year-old building, and hope all the bricks don't fall while you're doing it, so nobody's gonna do that. They just needed an answer other than this crazy 500, so, is it 500 or is it 75 bucks to put a through bolt in it, you know? Colorado Springs.
A startling scene in downtown Colorado Springs Wednesday after a man falls to his death.
I was just walking up the street to get to the bus stop, and the cops were right there, told me I couldn't come this way.
Police say the victim and several others were working on the roof of this privately owned building when the man fell.
He may have fallen a distance of anywhere from 15 to 20 feet is what's being investigated right now.
Tragically, the man died on scene. It's believed he fell from the fire escape and not the roof or a window, although how it happened is still unknown.
That's what's being investigated right now to determine the actual cause of the accident itself.
Right now, police say the death is not criminal and is being called an industrial accident.
There were several witnesses, individuals who were working with the deceased party, and so we've interviewed them as witnesses in this investigation.
It's really sad. I feel bad for his family. I mean, I don't know him, but prayers and best wishes to his family for sure.
Others in the area expressing similar concerns and well wishes, visibly distraught by the day's events.
I mean, I can't even imagine it, just coming out to do your job one day and just fall off a building. Like, it's really sad.
So let me tell you what happened to that guy. I'm going to show you some more death. But what happened to that guy is, it was a cantilever with a cable on the nose that go up and go around. And what happened is, the thing was out. So the owner went out. This is the story, piecing it all together, speaking with various people. The owner went out, she's not going down. So he goes back to the guys, because the guys were working on the roof, they're using the fire escape to get to the roof. So one of the guys went out to the tip, because she was locked up, frozen and rusted. He's like, man, she won't go down. Hey, Hector, come on here and help me. One, come on here, two. 3 guys out there. Snap! The cable went and caught the first guy and went whoosh. So what happens when you whoosh? When he say he died on scene, how many people die on scene from the guys in Philadelphia fell 40 feet and all 3 survived. This guy dies, falls 15 to 20 feet. Was actually partially or fully decapitated. Right? So, more death. Ready? I'm an expert witness in various cases, where they brought me in, including a firefighter in New York City that we were involved in a case. But here's one in Boston. This is on a hill. 5-story building and another 5-story building, but going down a hill, this 5-story, your 5th floor can actually feed the attic, the roof of the other. So, 2 people, guy and a girl, they, at night, they were known to climb on their neighbor's roof and party on the roof. And so the phone rang, 2, 3 in the morning. The phone rang, the girl says, I'll get the phone. She goes back, but there's missing railings and stuff. So she comes back out of the wood deck, heading back to her window, or his window, because she was visiting him, and she falls 5 stories, dead. Here's another one that I investigated. I'm on a fire escape similar to that. See how it's there? I'm on one just like that. But there was 5 people on this one. They were selling the building. The owner basically did the roof himself with his kids. Look at all that rust. And basically he lifted the fire escape just enough, put the shingles underneath, and then put everything back, had some extra bolts. What do you do with extra bolts? It's for the next fire escape. So there was a real estate agent, a buyer, a real estate agent, and a seller, and a trustee on there talking about, come live at our beautiful complex here. And they all fell here. So it used to be there. Thank God there was a roof ledge just below it, 10 feet, let's say. And they all were underneath that rubble. Lawsuits, 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 right? Look at another one. This is here in Iowa. I was brought in on a case in Iowa at a university, and 3 kids were up here watching the fireworks on July 4th. And what happened was, this is the smoking gun. So when they were up there watching the fireworks, the fire escape pulled away from the building. This big piece of mess came down, landed here, landed on the ground, blood. Nobody died, but everybody was crippled. And a lawsuit ensued. This guy owns like 40, 50 buildings in the city, and he rents mainly to students. So what happened was, his guys needed to fix a window and so they took the fire escape off this side, and that side was through bolted. Okay? When they took off just this side, and the whole fire escape then they put it back with a lag screw. So a 1/2 inch through bolt, they put a 1/2 inch lag bolt back in the hole, and that does what? So here's what happens. It was funny because, again, Fire Escape CSI, it's a new show coming to me here. I need some releases person from you guys. So what happened was, they, you know, when you get evidence, right? You get evidence of, you know, a partial, almost somebody got almost killed kind of thing, right? What do you do with this evidence? What do you do with this piece? Well, you know, how do you secure evidence? Where would you put it? In some, you know, some facility where you can keep it under control, right? 8 blocks away, the guy threw it in the field that he owned, right? So here we are in this field. It was funny. Lawyers and owners and agents and stuff, right? So this is just threw it in the field. But this is where we found the smoking gun. It was hilarious, you know, for us, but not for the people who got hurt. So. You mind, gentlemen? That means it's a lawyer speaking. All right. So we found the smoking gun. It was funny. This actually fits perfectly. Like, how it traveled from the place and just got thrown in the field, and it didn't, you know, because I knew what I was looking at, and that was basically. So they put it back, right? They put it back, and they put it back with a through bolt. But then they put a leg on it also, and you'll appreciate this as a building inspector, on pressure treated wood or right on the shingles? Right on the shingles, right. There was no legs here before, so they put some new legs on there, right on pressure treated or on shingles? Shingles right there. And in the corner over there, there's a place for you to tie it in the corner, you know, the staircase into the corner, because it kind of wraps and then goes to a stair, a ladder. Did they put bolts back in that? So that day when I got there, I was actually able to grab that down here,
Lift it.
walk it out a little bit and walk it back and videotape, so they settled.
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments, because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
Everybody back in. So they had everybody evacuating, trying to evacuate, and everybody was stuck on the fire escape because the ladders wouldn't come down, including an 8-year-old little girl, which they were able to photograph. How many of you trained your 8-year-old little girls how to basically operate a fire escape and jump 10 to 12 feet to the ground? Right? So, and then all of a sudden when they got there, were they firefighting or was this a rescue mission? 3 to 5 minutes of smoke inhalation does what to anybody? Does anybody die? No. Right? So nobody died. What did they grab? What did they do to that building with all the 50 people stuck on fire escapes? What did they, at the end? They reset the triggers and okay, everybody back into their mousetrap. We inspected this 6 months later, and every fire escape had life safety issues. And we advised, you know, everybody that we could, you know, we could yell and scream, and everybody's like, la 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 la.
So
why? Because it's the bastard child of egress. There's a reason, because you're about to step into a quagmire. You know, you get a lot of people like, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'll tell you guys, you're going to get a bullet in the head. You got to lean into this 3 to 5 years. You got to make checklist items that are automatic. And that's what this meeting is going to be about. It's about making it a checklist. Don't go out with a flag. You'll get shot at. The blowback comes from, you know, the lonely owner that can't afford, you know, is in foreclosure, to the guy that owns the whole city block. And that's why you just got to sort of look what everybody else doing is just start slow, 3 to 5 years. And like we did in Portland, Oregon, after we have everybody sort of here connected, you know who we have, what the next class is? Vendors. We have structural engineers and vendors in the class with you guys. And then when we're done with this class, guess what we do? We do a downtown walk around with them to basically say, hey, it's 3 years later, Some of you have done it this way, some of you have done it that way, you know, don't worry about it, because in 5 years' time, we're gonna reset the clock on somebody that slipped under the radar. So, 3 to 5 years. That's why you have to ask your counterparts out there, just what kind of hell is crazy out there. Tacoma. Is your, no, she's, it's a fire marshal. Okay, so, by the way.
So where is Tacoma in this process?
See, they were in my class for Seattle. Actually, one of their documents I'm going to show you is part of the Tacoma document. You'll love it. Well, her name is escaping me right now, but I'm just saying she's the fire marshal there at that thing. So I was trying to say, I know a few fire marshals out there. By the way, it also kills vendors. Our Chicago guy, his dad was 57, 7 stories he fell to his death. This is not his father, but doing exactly this, fell 7 stories to his death.
OSHA doesn't require them to tie in?
Well, again, this is not the shot of the situation.
But I mean, you know.
Yeah, we harness up when we're on fire escape check. Not everybody does. Okay? So, what other ways are people basically live load testing all your fire escapes?
Yeah.
When there was no AC, remember those days? Yeah. Every time there's a parade in your city, guess what everybody does? They live load test all your fire escapes for you. And now then EMS does what? If for some reason they can't get somebody out the front door, where do they pull them out of? So EMS,
That would rarely happen.
okay, is getting hurt on these things. And you guys, even though you're told not to use the fire escape, what occasionally happens when all hell breaks loose? What do you guys use?
Only thing in.
Fire escape to... How about people that have all these residential buildings where they basically want to visit their neighbor? How? Do they want to go through the front door? How do you visit your neighbor's wife? You got to do the fire escape. Photographs and people using it for shots of this kind. How about all you students in a non-smoking building? What are they using? To grow their tomato plants. Oh, there's other plants that they grow? Okay. All right, so who can inspect fire escapes?
Love a good tomato.
Right, you asked this question. The law is very simple. Design professionals or others acceptable to the building official. So engineers, architects, city officials, they think you guys are inspecting fire escapes. Okay? Because they tell us, hey, he only said that tread. That's don't find anything else. So they start telling us what to look for in what fire escape inspectors. 2 licenses, a Boston license and an LA license. And can they cross over? Many times they do. But I've had many times when I'm in Michigan and the city official there says, no problem, I'll let you inspect, do everything. But can you have an engineer stamp on your document? Says, sure. So now, guess what I have to do in Michigan? I have to go out with a cup of coffee and a $500 check, and I got to knock on doors, say, hey, can you sign this document? Can you sign this? So every now and then I'm waking somebody up who knows less than me to sign a document, because he doesn't really do that stuff. But his seal is what the city official wants, because that's been the norm. As long as you saw that seal, where did you file it? Right? You're good, right? In case anything happens, who's everybody going to sue? The guy in the file. But what do you do at the funeral for the fireman? You bring that file with you? Console the wife? Right? Fire escape, pass or fail?
Fail.
Okay? The reason I got a call on this is because the city official, the secretary said, hey, I got an engineer here that says this thing is fine, you got to do a few things to it and just paint it. Can you come and look at it? I came and looked at it, and it actually failed the fire escape in this way. He has 4 recommendations, which means fix 2 treads, paint it. But what's he have down here? This is not a load test. To the best of my information, knowledge, I believe, right? So he has his disclaimer down here, right? Look at all the things that were failing on this fire escape. Here's another one in Chicago.
So that was the engineer's opinion letter, and then you went out and...
Said this thing's ready to kill somebody.
Okay.
So, and again, are you still accepting opinion letters?
Well, I'm actually right now. Yeah.
Yes, because it's the start of what?
Oh, yeah.
So you're gonna screw up the process? You're gonna rock the boat? Take the opinion letter, say this is a great start because I'm either gonna certify or load test. Is this all you want to give me? Well, is there anything else? Yeah, you can fill out this one. Please, send this confidence test to them, and they can say to you, I ain't signing that. I ain't. Great.
Load test. Yeah.
What do you pull out, guys, nice and loud?
Load test. Bring it.
Right? So great, and that's gonna, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Nobody does load tests, what do you say?
Yeah, we do.
There's a few crazy people out there that,
We do now.
we'll fly them in.
We'll fly them in.
We'll fly them in. So here's a fire escape in Chicago, about 150 apartments. All these, the guy says, just paint it, we just need to paint and fix a few things. I went in there and looked at it. Now these are very unique in that instead of having a bracket underneath holding it, it's a suspended bracket. So it has this long cable, round, solid 1-inch bar that comes to this corner, picks up that other corner and basically bridges across, right? Holding up all this weight. I said, oh, okay, can you mind if I just look at it before? Sure. But anything else besides this one-page letter? Opinion? He goes, no. I said, okay, so I went to look at it. This is what I found. Right? And but look at all these are the rods that come up and hold the whole thing. They're all rotted out. I could pull heads off the thing with my hands. I'm like, dude. I told anybody, raise flags, send up flares. Guess what happened?
Nada.
Okay? When you walk up to a building, this is what you see. When you look underneath, this is what you get. Now, I walk around with a 3-pound hammer to do my ping test for my safety. That's not a load test. And so when I walk into structures and I've got to walk up a structure and photograph it, I got to do a hammer test. It's not part of a load test. It's just a hammer test. It's a safety test. And this is what I do.
See how much rust falls off?
Whoops.
Right? And when we got there, these treads are already dangling, right? So we're not going to continue. It's too dangerous. But now watching some of the video as I start shooting up. Look at that. Okay? Is any fireman going to see that in the middle of the night? Nope. Now, if you fall up going up a stairs, what happens to your knees? You fall backwards, right? It falls in the right direction. But when you're going down and your foot goes through, traps your legs, and you keep falling forward, what happens to your knee? You snap it in the wrong way, and you'll never work as a fireman again. So here's all the codes. Okay? So let me just do one thing, because we're going to talk about the code. I just want to see.
5 Master Street. Yeah, that could do it too.
All right, we're going to go a few more slides forward, right? And then I'm going to go right to the book and just answer all the questions because it's a very short class. Like I said, normally these classes, and you can hold one for your region and have this class again 3 to 6 hours. So we can talk a lot about fire escapes, but what I'm going to do is a few more slides, and then what I want to do is get into this book and say, here's all the answers, here's all the states that are already doing it, and we can do this already for you so you can already start from the get-go, and you want to become what's called a pilot city. And the pilot city all says is, we're willing to try it, we're going to do it over the next 3 to 5 years, and we're going to see what kind of blowback we're going to get, because in some cases you need to do this a lot slower than you think, and you start only with commercial, and then you work your way towards institutional and residential. So we'll go over a few ideas. So, anybody clear about the load test card that you've always had in your pocket that you didn't know you had? So not just one person, there's 4 people with these load tests. Here's what they look like, right? We're going to go over those in a second. So we can make a model. So when you download from Seattle, you got to just change your logo because it's a PDF or a Word document. Change your address there. Done. Somewhere in it, you can basically put your. We can do this for you, but you can put your code here, which is now the new code. That's it. That's all. Now you've got an industry standard document. Does it need to go through legal? Well, you send them a copy of something that already went through legal in Seattle. You're saying, but it's always good. But it's not just these guys came up with confidence tests. We helped them make this up, right? But here's the one you asked me about, Tacoma, who participated. They have their own confidence test also, which is just a series of questions, no more opinions. But here's something that I love that they did that we incorporated. They have the 1-year checklist. So the 5-year checklist is for design professionals and others acceptable. But here's a 1-year checklist for the owner of the building. And you do your 1-year ownership inspections, but here's the best part. You ask the owner to basically fill out one of these every year for you. And he has these questions. Bolts and supports are not damaged, meaning anybody smack into this thing, is anything fall on this thing? He's going to say, pass. Paint is good condition, what's he going to say? Pass. All moving parts and ladders and windows are operational, he's going to tell you what? pass. He's gonna sign it, and as it says right here, it could be signed by an agent, the owner, or even his maintenance guy. But here's the best part. He wants to give it to you when you arrive. You say, no, I don't want it now. I need you to go to the roof, go over the gooseneck, come down the fire escape, open and close all the doors and all the windows, and then when you get down to the ground, either the drop ladder or the cantilever, activate it, hit the ground, come down and hand it to me. Now, it doesn't have to be the owner, it could be an agent, so it's not like, oh, they'll never do it. The owner doesn't have to do it, he has an agent, so he can hire a fire protection company to do this, but somebody every year is checking the batteries on what? On the system, that's all. And it's not a big, huge cost of the 5-year inspection load test, what is it? And by the way, if you refurbish a fire escape, you know how long you put off the load test question for? 15 to 25 years. Because I will be giving you other evidence of strength for 15 to 25 years to not load test. But 25 years later, when these bolts that I replaced today, 25 years from now, what is going to start coming up as a possible requirement? Load test, right? And so what does somebody 25 years from now have to do to that building? Change all the fasteners and do what? Reset the clock and do what? Okay? So I like this, what Tacoma came up with, that she came up with, and I kind of like it. This is what you're going to go online, when you go to Portland online, go on the fire escape issues. Look at all the write-up they have of all the procedures, repairs, what kind of paint to use, and what did they have? They have a checklist item. Some of the questions we have is the same questions they have. So you want to make up your own? Get a collection of questions. This is what scares. Now, Seattle has every fire escape must have a tag. Okay, so just like your elevator has to have a tag, every fire escape in Seattle must have a white tag put on by a third party. Guess what tags they put on? Yellows and reds. The third parties also put on yellows and reds on the building when they examine. But during your fire pre-plans, guess what you guys have all the guys do when they're doing pre-plans in the downtown? Stop putting up tags, because over the next 3 to 5 years, are you certifying fire escapes, or are you just identifying them and their current status today? You guys remember the program you went to look at every fire hydrant to see its current condition? Every old fire hydrant, you know, after a while some of them were leaking and not working when you showed up. So you guys created some program that was done in 3 to 6 months, and you just basically took everybody that you could use, trainees, firefighters, and you guys basically had them just go throughout the whole city and find what? Every fire hydrant. And then once that was over, what was done? Stop, right? Then you had a maintenance routine way of checking.
We do it every year.
Find every fire hydrant?
We test every plug every year.